Hello everyone and welcome to part 2 of our F1 driver career mode with Alfa Romeo. This time out for the Imola Grand Prix. Last time out we were in Australia for the first round of this series at our home Grand Prix, and unfortunately it all came crashing down in just 9 laps where we had an engine failure to end our first race, our debut race in Formula 1 very early on. You can see Leclerc currently leads the championship with the race win and the fastest lap, and we are right down at the very bottom, P20 on 0 points. Zhou wasn't able to get any points either, unfortunately, for the team, and so for now, in both the constructors and the drivers, we are right down the order. Heading in to the second round of the season, though, you can see we are the third from bottom team, just under Williams. We did bring some upgrades, but you can see the likes of Haas brought a lot of upgrades. They've really thrown themselves up now to be smack bang in the middle of the field. They are just behind Alpine, pretty much on top of Alpine. Ferrari, Mercedes and Aston Martin have all come a little bit closer as well, and Red Bull is still way out front. But after those top 4 guys, it is a very, very close battle, and it is a very, very wet Imola Grand Prix, as you can see on your screen right now. It is bucketing down here in Italy, and so that should make a very, very interesting race for us for our first wet race of the season on end of our career. And it'll be interesting to see the differences in how this Alfa Romeo performs in wet conditions compared to the dry conditions that we did have in Australia. It was an alright qualifying for us, qualifying in P14 once again for the second round in a row here, just like we did in Australia. And so, yeah, we've certainly got an opportunity to try and challenge for some points again if we are able to have the pace. But yeah, let's have a look now at the rest of the grid rundown for the Imola Grand Prix.
It's time to take a look at our starting grid for today's race. An immense lap from Carlos Sainz yesterday puts him in pole position, and it's Charles Leclerc in P2. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Perez, Hamilton, Russell, Fernando Alonso, Norris, Albon, Gasly, Magnussen, Stroll, Ocon, Verstappen, Benjamin, Oscar Piastri, Tsunoda, Hulkenberg, Joe, Sargent, and Nick de Vries. Now it's almost time for lights out, so let's go down to the track.
Okay, this is our engine supplier's home Grand Prix, which means there's a lot of very important people here behind the scenes. I'd love to give them a strong result to watch today, plus a good result might make my post-race meetings a little bit easier.
So here we are lining up P14 on the grid for the Imola Grand Prix, and as I said before, it is absolutely bucketing down with rain, and so that should make a very interesting race here, just in terms of seeing how our race pace is. Also, haven't done a wet start yet in this new game with this whole new handling and physics model that we do have, and so yeah, it could be very, very spicy heading down towards turn 1. Maybe we could get a good start. Maybe we'll be down in 20th by the time we do get to the first corner. We'll just have to wait and see and hope that things go in our favour. It does mean, though, that car performance is usually a bit more balanced in the wet. That's just from previous games, though. Maybe it's completely different in this one, but we'll just have to see as we once again get as close as we possibly can to the front of our grid spot. Not quite as good as it was last time out in Australia, but still not too bad whatsoever, as we do have the lights now coming up. We go to the 5 red lights, and we are underway for the Imola Grand Prix. It's all right. There's a lot more wheel spin than I would have liked, and so we have Oscar Piastri coming up alongside us here on the inside, but he gets caught in behind Max Verstappen, who I did forget to mention is quite a ways down in P13 to start off this Grand Prix, so he's going to be trying to work his way through the field. We go around his outside, though, through turn 1. We're slightly alongside Lance Stroll for P12 and 13. We do get ahead of Verstappen. We do fall back behind Lance Stroll for now, as Verstappen actually sends it down the inside there. Sort of caught me off guard as we now go side by side through this section. He's actually going to have the better run out of the corner as I just get a bucket load of wheel spin. I'm going to keep trying to hold it around the outside here. However, just sort of going a little bit wider than I needed to there, and so he's able to just slip through. I didn't want to waste too much time battling away with a Red Bull either way. Hopefully maybe he can try and make some moves and I can follow him through as he sends some people a little bit wide or something, and yeah, he can get us a bit closer to the points. But after that starting squabble, we end up in P14 anyway, and we've actually fallen a little bit behind as up ahead Verstappen now challenging Lance Stroll for that P12 position, as Stroll actually spins it on the exit curve. Verstappen hits him. I wonder if there's a bit of damage there, maybe. I can't tell. But either way, we get ahead of both of them without any issue. So we're up into P12. The safety car has been called out. Verstappen and Stroll both have a 5-second penalty there for that incident. But the looks of it, Stroll just spun it all on his own, so I'm not sure why Verstappen got a penalty, but they're now in P13 and 14 at the moment, and we'll go for an order check here now on the safety car. On lap 3, Leclerc leading a Ferrari 1-2 ahead of Carlos Sainz, his teammate, so a very good start to the race for the Scuderias at one of their home Grand Prix here. Perez now sitting in 3rd in the Red Bull, lead Red Bull in this race, and then Hamilton and Russell for 4th and 5th for Mercedes, Alonso in the Aston in P6, Norris in the McLaren P7, Albon doing very, very well in that Williams to be up in P8 at the moment, so a very, very strong race for those guys to potentially score some points, which could put us in a bit of trouble if they are able to bag some points. Then we'll have to really make sure to push to get ourselves some points later on in the season to make sure we finish ahead of Williams in the Constructors. Then Magnussen 9th, Gasly, Ocon in 10th, 11th, and then it's ourselves spinning in P12 after being able to benefit from that little accident between Stroll and Verstappen. And so now at the end of lap 4, heading on to lap 5, the safety car is coming in. We're going to try and get as good a launch out of the final corner as possible. It wasn't ideal. We're going to deploy ERS to see if we can close in on the Alpine, but unfortunately, I just didn't quite get the exit that I was looking for. I was in a bit too low of a gear. And so we're not going to get attacked by Verstappen, but we're not going to be able to attack Ocon as well as we just sort of speed through this little section here to skip forwards. We are right in on the back of this pack, but they are very, very banked up. And so I'm going to go to the inside of Ocon into this hairpin here as everyone was just sort of going a bit single file. And we do get the position off of the Alpine to get ourselves into P11, just one spot away from a points-paying position now. We have lost a little bit of time to Gasly with making that move. However, we should hopefully be able to close in a little bit if he battles away with someone as we now cut to lap number 6, looking a bit further up to Lando Norris, who makes a mistake. He's allowed Alex Albon and the Williams through. They're actually going to go a bit side by side. Albon does get the move done in the end there to get himself up into P7, so a great race becomes even better for the Williams team at the moment. Norris now under attack from Magnussen and Gasly, and if these guys battle away, then there's ourselves sitting in P11 looking to try and benefit, but we do in the end here on lap 6 as well, actually, so the same lap that all that happened. We get a nice exit out of the chicane, and using a bit of battery, we're going to close in on the back of the Alpine, dive it to the inside of the penultimate corner here, almost lose the car. You can see actually locked the rears a little bit there and had to catch it under braking, but we do in the end, they get the move done up into P10 for now. But however, is Gasly going to come back at us here? He would have had a little bit of a better run having the outside of that corner. However, it's actually Ocon that's going to attack his teammate in the turn 1. Ocon almost driving in the grass there to get alongside his fellow Frenchman as we go down into turn 1. He actually almost goes down the inside of ourselves as well. He's gone too deep. He's locked up all the wheels. He's lost back out to Gasly and Verstappen, who snuck his way through into P12 as well. So Ocon trying to gain a position to get himself closer to the points in the end has actually really hurt himself as we now sit in P10 still. Gasly not too far behind us. He didn't lose as much time as I would have liked from that, but for now at least we are in the points paying positions looking to try and score some points after we were quite frankly robbed with that engine failure in last time out in Australia. Now looking up to the lead though on lap number 8, Sainz attacking his teammate Leclerc. The two Ferraris are right out, 3-second lead they have, and they're racing each other. I'm sure they're all sitting in that garage pulling their hair out looking at this battle, but Sainz in the end does get the move done on Charles Leclerc to take the lead of the race. Leclerc leads the championship, remember, after taking the win and the fastest lap point in Australia, and so Sainz trying to even the playing field by the looks of it as we now cut forward to lap number 9. Here comes Max Verstappen in the Red Bull. I said he's going to have to try and work his way through the field. Here he is trying to do that around the outside of the Alpine. He holds it. Gasly nearly forced him into the gravel there, but Verstappen held his position and he was able to make the move work up into P11 now, and we are the next car in his sights as the Alpines once again racing away with each other. They're really slowing each other down, so they may need to have a talk about that after this race if they want to be scoring some good points. They can't really be racing each other. It's such a crucial point. Verstappen just sends it down our inside. It wasn't even trying by the looks of it. He just flew past us, and so that unfortunately puts us outside of the points, back down into P11, and I'm going to try and do what I said I was going to do earlier on in the race. I'm going to try and just follow him and see if he can maybe pull me forward as we now look to lap number 14. You can see he sort of left us for dust, and he's now making a move on Kevin Magnussen in the Haas for P9. Is he going to have it down the inside? Magnussen may try and hold it around the outside of turn 1 here. He tries. They do keep going side by side. This is really good for myself. The more these guys battle, the more I can catch up and potentially try and mount a move on that Haas. Verstappen has got the move done though into P9, and so you'd imagine he's now going to drive away from Magnussen. However, here on lap 15, I have closed in on the Haas and we can potentially go for a move to get ourselves back into the points paying positions. We head around the final corner, trying to get a good exit as possible, deploying battery now as we head down the main straight. DRS has actually been enabled, even though the track's still a little bit wet. We are meant to come into this lap for intermediates, but I think it's almost time for slicks. Perez has come into the pit lane for some slick tyres. With the help of DRS and deploying battery, we make a move on Magnussen quite easily. I lock up one of the fronts there just slightly, and so I ran a little bit wide. You can see looking a bit further back. Here is Perez, as I said, on the hard compound tyre. And this is something that has been noticed on the F123 game. Even though the track does look a little bit wet and damp still, it is time to come in for the slicks. And you just sort of have to use the AI to judge when that time is, unfortunately. Hopefully that's something that can be a bit fixed later on. I can't remember if it was 2021 or 22 that we had that same issue, and it was eventually patched a little bit later on. But for now, we just have to deal with it, and we go onto the hard compound tyres to hopefully get ourselves to the end. We are at the halfway point of the race now, and having a little look through the field, you can see everyone has come in except for George Russell in the Mercedes. He stayed out on the intermediates. That is surely going to really damage his pace on this in-lap when he comes into the pit lane. However, you can see here as we come past the pit exit, we're now on to lap number 18, still in P9. It's actually Pierre Gasly that's in behind us. Magnussen hasn't had a great time. Gasly flies past us though now with the help of some DRS. I'm sure he would have been deploying battery, and now that it's dry as well, the car performance will actually be making a little bit more of a difference, and so that Alpine is a bit higher rated in terms of performance. However, I'm going to try and stick with him in the DRS. We're going to fly to the inside here with the rear wing open, deploying battery. We don't have much left, but we fly completely past before we're even close to the braking zone, and for now, we are back into P9. Now looking through an order check again. Perez, we are making that earlier pit stop as we showed before, has jumped into the lead by quite a margin as well in that Red Bull. Sainz sitting in P2 after having led earlier on. Hamilton now sits in P3. He's had a great run there in that pit stop phase. Alonso sits in P4. He just made a move on Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari, who now sits back in P5. So he's fallen real far back now after having led the race at the start. Russell, remember, he stayed out longer on the intermediates. He's now right down in P6. Albon finds himself, it's still a very good race for the Williams, I have to say again, in P7, so great stuff there from the Williams driver, getting some good points. Norris sitting in P8 in the McLaren, and then myself, Gasly and Verstappen in a three-way battle for 9th, 10th and 11th, so one of us in this battle outside of the points. Gasly going to go to the inside there. I defend a little bit. He backs out of it. And for now, we hold on to P9. But Verstappen has closed in here and is immediately trying to find a way through on the Alpine. So this battle is starting to heat up for these last few points paying positions. Leclerc going through on the Aston Martin of Fernando Alonso there. He got very close to that inside pit wall there as he came through. Alonso tried to defend a bit, but it wasn't enough to hold back the Ferrari. As we now look at ourselves, we pulled a little bit of a gap on Gasly. However, he's going to have DRS. Verstappen, again, all over the back of that Alpine with DRS. Here comes Gasly to the inside as we head down towards turn 1. It's going to be 3 wide with Verstappen as well. Verstappen backs out of it. Gasly makes the move, stick on us. He goes a little slow through turn 2. I almost hit the back of the Alpine there. That could have been an absolutely race-ending disaster. We're going to look to the inside of the chicane. I decide to back out of it in the end there, and that got very spicy for a moment there as we all almost came together as we now cut forward to lap 22 with the DRS. We're going to fly through on to Pierre Gasly. Verstappen going to try and follow us through here in turn 1. He's going to go around the outside and have the inside for the second part of the chicane. Gets the move done, so Gasly loses 2 places for the price of 1 there, heading on to lap 22. But that means we now have no real defense against that Red Bull of Max Verstappen. As you can see here, he's already all over the back of us. I go defensive into the hairpin, but it doesn't really mean much because as we head now onto the end of lap 22, heading on to lap 23, he's going to have the DRS, plus just being a Red Bull itself. We know how fast those things are in a straight line. He destroys us down the straight. I've got no battery left to defend with because I've been using it all to try and get away from these guys, but you can see there, it is all done. He's throwing us, and by quite a margin already. It's already almost a second, and Gasly all over the back of us as we head down here with no battery left to defend with, though. Gasly's going to be able to get it down the inside, and in the end there, I decided to sort of let him pull ahead there to make sure we don't lose too much time and allow Magnussen an opportunity to attack as he now finds himself part of this battle. And so we've now gone from 2 of us being in the points to only 1 of us battling away for a points paying positions as Magnussen has an engine failure. I did miss myself getting through on Gasly there down the straight, but Magnussen does end up pulling off to the side there in the Haas with an engine failure. And so that's actually a 2 Ferrari engines in a row here in this series so far where that have blown up. So in round 1 at Australia, it was my engine, and now here in Imola, it is Magnussen's engine. So that is a little bit concerning, I will say. A safety car is now being deployed here as we head on to lap 27. We'll go for an order check once again. Sergio Perez in the Red Bull leading the way ahead of Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari. Hamilton still sitting P3 in the Mercedes. Leclerc P4 ahead of Alonso, who's in P5. Leclerc and Alonso been battling away throughout the course of this race since we got onto the slick tyres. Russell then sits in P6. Albon still doing very well up in P7. He's got some good pace as well. He hasn't lost that position. He's been there since the very start. Norris sits in P8. In the McLaren. Verstappen now has well and truly gotten himself into the points, and I imagine now, with just a few laps left in this race, he's going to be charging through the rest of these guys to get up towards the very pointing end of the field. Then myself rounding out the points paying positions in P10. As we get underway, it's a much better safety car restart to what we had initially there. You can see I actually had to back out of it to make sure I didn't overlap Verstappen heading in, across the start-finish line, as that actually has hurt us as we now head down towards turn 1. We've got a bit of a gap missing. A close up in the braking zone, though. We head through turn 1, through turn 2. Verstappen loses the lead. He spins it all on his own there. That is a huge disaster there for the Red Bull driver, who has spent this race trying to work his way up into the points. He finally does it, and then all on his own, no contact at all. You can see here, he just spins it. Just all on his own. I guess the rears were maybe a little bit colder than he was expecting, and he just loops it all on his own there, and that is absolutely his race over and out. He is not going to be scoring points with the few laps that are remaining in this race. He's down in stone dead last, and yeah, quite a gap to the next guys as well as he recovers it there. He's now down in P18, the last car on track. Still here on lap 28, though, Russell is looking all over the back of the Aston Martin of Fernando Alonso. He's going to look to the outside, the inside of this fast right, but the outside of the final 2 corners. Who's going to get this position? This is going to back up this whole little train of cars that we've got going on here that I'm a part of myself. And they're going to go side by side along the start-finish line. Actually, no, they're not. Russell pulls ahead. Alonso pulled into the slipstream for a second before pulling back along. Here comes Albon to try and get the both of them in the Williams. Is alongside Fernando Alonso. Norris involved in this as well. Alonso coming back at George Russell in the Mercedes. They're still going 2 by 2 through this first chicane. Who's going to have it? The Aston and the Mercedes are still going. Norris has made his way through on Alex Albon. I'm all over the back of the Williams now. Russell is going to try and pull ahead of the Aston Martin, but Alonso actually, in the end, gets the move done. I find myself alongside Albon as Albon dives it now to the inside of Lando Norris. This is insane racing to finish off the Imola Grand Prix here, as I now again find myself alongside the Williams. We're going to go around the outside of the fast left-hander. We get the move done up into P8, which is a nice bag full of points. 4 points to our name so far, unless we can get ourselves a couple more points in this Grand Prix. Maybe having a look at overtaking Lando Norris as we now look ahead. Actually, behind, Gasly under attack from Hulkenberg in the other Haas. So Magnussen lost the opportunity at getting points. It's now up to Hulkenberg to bring it together and take those points that were up to Magnussen to try and get. He gets the move done into P10. So Gasly, after everything that's happened to him in this race, is now outside the points once again. Looking a bit further back, Zhou's had a very quiet race. He's battling away here with De Vries, Tsunoda, and Verstappen now, who finds himself in this battle. Zhou, unfortunately, not looking to score any points in this race with only 2.5-ish laps to go. He is still alongside the AlphaTauri though, but he does pull just ahead there with the Ferrari engine, which we do know at the moment in his career is the quickest of the lot. As we now look forward to the end of lap 30, on to lap 31, so officially now 2 laps to go. Russell again going to try and attack Fernando Alonso. Meanwhile, further back, I'm going to try and attack Lando Norris. We actually completely fly past him here before we're even in the braking zone. And so for now, we're into P7 with the opportunity of maybe having a look at P5 and 6 if these guys keep battling away. However, I don't think it's quite going to happen as we head on to the final lap of the Grand Prix. We've got a battle for the lead of the race here. Here comes Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari, trying to do the Italian crowd proud here. Heading down towards turn 1. He's to the inside of the Red Bull, but the Perez keeps it alongside, forces his way back through, and it is a 4-way battle here on the final lap of the race. This is the sort of stuff that we absolutely love to see here in F1 and in this career mode. And it's very nice as we look a bit further back to our start of the final lap of the Grand Prix. Unfortunately, Norris is going to absolutely fly past us there. I got no battery left, And yeah, he's just a lot quicker than us in a straight line with that DRS and deploying that battery as we head into turn 1. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to keep it close to try and make another move, but we are going to, in the end, come across for a very nice P8 here in Imola.
Okay, pick up rubber and bring it home.
And that's it then for the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. And what a sensational victory they've managed to pull off here. Tell me, Ant, how did they manage to achieve this win? Red Bull put up an outstanding fight for the front position today, and it's great to see it paid off for them. They do so much for the sport that you can't help but be delighted by today's race win.
So here we are with the results for the Imola Grand Prix. Sergio Perez takes the win in the end from Carlos Sainz in second. Hamilton rounding out the podium for Mercedes. Leclerc ended up in P4 there. So he made a bit of a recovery to get himself back up just off the podium. Russell sits P5, Alonso 6th, and now Norris sits in 7th. Ourselves, great finishing position in P8, and Albon did very, very well to get in P9 ahead of Hulkenberg in 10th. In terms of the driver standings, Ferrari with Charles Leclerc lead the way by 2 points over Sergio Perez now in the Red Bull. Sainz sits in P3 in the second Ferrari. It's then Russell and Hamilton in P4 and 5. Verstappen all the way down in P6, 21 points off the lead in the end there. And it's actually myself in 9th on 4 points. And so in the end, we actually have got ourselves into the top 10 in the second round with only one finish so far in this race. In terms of constructors, we sit P6 with 4 points to our name now. And those points are actually a bit crucial because Alpine, Williams and Haas all able to score points. It's only AlphaTauri now, the only team in the field to yet score any points in this race. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they're able to. They definitely have the slowest car in the performance chart so far, but with the crazy race that we just saw in Imola, who knows what could happen in the future. We've got the British Grand Prix next up, but that is all for this one, guys. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more content like this in the future, and I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.